We have the last session for the day, which is innovations that make the future brighter, and case studies, upcoming technologies that can change the world, and unique case studies. The first presentation for the day is by Mr. Sachin Patra, Senior Manager Sales, EKI Energy Service Limited. The topic of his presentation is COP26 and expected outcomes. May I kindly request Mr. Sachin Patra to be on the stage, please?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So, in this 15 minutes, I'll be talking about what is COP26, the background. What is COP26, the background of it, and what are the expected outcomes of COP26. So, in India, we have not seen much of awareness on these topics: Paris Agreement, COP26, Kyoto Protocol. So, when Kyoto Protocol started, I think everybody knew the result of Kyoto Protocol by the name CDM, or Clean Development Mechanism. So, through which projects from developing countries could get carbon credits for the emission reduction that they created, and these carbon credits could be sold to companies in developed nations like USA, UK, so that they could meet their climate ambitions. And at the same time, the developed countries were also who were signatory to the Kyoto Protocol had certain emission reduction targets, and they had that obligation to meet. So, after the European financial crisis after 2012, the CDM market significantly crashed, and people started believing that CDM has closed down. But that was not the case, because the prices were low. Companies were not verifying their emission reductions, and they were not selling those carbon credits. Now, when after the Paris Agreement was signed in 2015, there has been a significant movement in the market from companies to come up with their carbon neutrality pledges, net zero emission pledges. So there are various ways companies could achieve that, but one of the way is also through market mechanisms, that is by purchase of carbon credit. That's not the first solution that is anyway recommended to any of the companies, but all the companies use energy in some forms, and because of that there would be some residual emission which will not be abated in their internal processes. For that, they have to go for market solution. So this Paris Agreement is on that how companies and countries in future can achieve their net zero ambition goals, and how all of us can work towards the 1.5 degrees Celsius target. So Paris Agreement, this is a legally binding agreement. This is a legally binding agreement that was signed in 2015 in COP 21, and further it was implemented in 2016. The goal is to limit the global warming, or the temperature of global warming compared to pre-industrial levels to up to 2 degrees centigrade, and also try to limit it up to 1.5 degrees Celsius if possible. Now, implementation-wise, the Paris Agreement has formulated that countries would have 5-year cycle target, so where they will be submitting more ambitious targets every 5 years. Those are called NDCs, or nationally determined contributions. Now, how do we implement? How do the targets are accounted? How countries can show that what they have done towards the target? So for all that, the operational aspects of Paris Agreement was decided in COP24, that was in Katowice. So that particular document is called Katowice Climate Package, where the operational details of Paris Agreement was mentioned. But still, there are certain articles in the agreement, like Article 6.2 and 6.4, which are key to the future carbon market that is going to come once this Paris Agreement is finalized and implemented. These details are yet to be negotiated. Now, in COP26, that is now the trading companies. So, the oil and gas companies now, the commodity trading houses now, they are also getting into carbon credits, and they think that carbon credits are going to be the new commodities of future. So these are some of the benefits that COP26 and Paris Agreement would bring for us. Some others are economic benefits or economic losses in tune to $2.3 trillion per annum, which is caused because of climate disasters can be avoided if we tackle the climate change properly, and we limit the global warming up to 1.5 degrees Celsius by the mid-century. But in terms of health benefits, there are approximately 7 million premature deaths every year that could be avoided if there is a better, atmosphere. Now, at the end, there are some things about my company. Our company's name is Enking International. It's a listed company in BSC, and we are present across the world. It's one of the largest carbon offset service providers in India and the world. In India, we have approximately 90% market share, and internationally, we have 30% market share. So yeah, so that's about us, and that's about in brief about what expectations we should have from COP26, and a brief background about carbon market and Paris Agreement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sachin. It was a wonderful presentation. May I now call upon Mr. Pavan Mathur, Head of Technical Support, Longi India, for his presentation. The topic of the presentation being Innovation in Module Manufacturing Technologies.
Wafer, mono cells, mono modules, and also we hold some solar plants in China only. So this gives us a unique opportunity to look at the whole industry chain from the wider perspective. We look at the industry chain from the manufacturing point of view of ingots, and then to the cells, and then modules. So we can look at the innovation part from all these perspectives. So the topics which I'm going to discuss today is there are three topics basically. How the module manufacturing has evolved over the years, which are the technologies which have enabled us to give good output module or good efficiency modules. The various technologies we'll discuss, and then the hot topics that the cell sizing. There is a debate going on how much should be the size of the cell. Some are saying 166, 182 to 10. What should be the ideal size, and what should be the rationale behind choosing the size of the module? And then we will discuss some future module technologies, some upcoming technologies, and which one should be chosen. So what is actually the driver of innovation when solar modules are concerned? I think it's the lowest LCOE, the quest to achieve lower LCOE. And how can we achieve lower LCOE? LCOE is the levelized cost of electricity. So if you bring your manufacturing cost lower, if you bring BOS cost lower, if you increase the energy yield, if you increase the reliability, if you work on the reliability part, then definitely the LCOE will go further down, and it will benefit the end customers. So what should we do to reduce the LCOE? Some of the points I have just discussed, and some of them are reducing cost of PV system. Right? How can we do that? You use low cost mono wafer, you use high efficiency and lower BOS. Right? How can we increase the energy generation? So we'll see how can we use PERC technology, tracking systems, and by using them we can increase the energy generation. And how do we increase the reliability? Right? So all these things will be discussed. From 2014 till date, the LCOE has gone down to roughly 36-37%. And why the LCOE has gone down? At the same time, in that time, we have seen that the market share of mono modules has increased. You can see in the slide that in year 2015, the mono modules share was only 18%. And when we talked in 2020, the share is touching 90%. So what are the technologies? We will discuss all these technologies, although in brief, because we don't have much time. When we go to making the wafer or ingot pulling, Then some revolutionary technologies are diamond wire slicing, recharge Joelski, which is RCZ. Wafer quality has improved, and how we will see. The PERC technology, I think majority of modules today are using the PERC technology. What is PERC technology? I'll just give you a basic. PERC is passivated emitter rear contact. We will see that what is PERC in a most basic way in the coming slides. Bifacial PERC, bifacial technology is one which has changed the LCOE landscape. Then half-cut cell technology. Then the introduction of M6 wafer, and now the M10 wafer. M6 wafer is 166 mm, and 182 is the size of the M10 wafer. So ingot pulling technology. This is the most basic of making mono wafer, mono modules, right? So what we have done in this thing, we have increased the speed of ingot pulling. The ingot pulling speed from 2013 has, from total date, it has increased by 80%, which is massive, right? We have utilized RCZ ingot pulling technology, which has increased the number of ingots that we take out, right? Then the whole production line has been automated. So all these things have enabled to give more and more production efficiency. Now this is diamond wire slicing technology. Now when we reduce the diameter of the diamond wire, the kerf losses will go down. If you reduce the kerf losses, then what happens is that the production efficiency increases. So the changes that the industry has done in diamond wire slicing is that the diamond wire has decreased by 50% from 2014 till date. And because of this decrease in diameter of diamond wire, the number of wafers from square rods have increased by 40%. More production from the single ingot means more profit. The slicing speed has increased by 65%. You know the number is massive. So these are the technologies which have helped us. Then another technology is PERC, passivated emitter rear contact. So it's a very basic, very simple technology. I'll just give you a very brief of it. So what we have done is that just below the, just above the aluminum metallization, we have introduced a dielectric PERC layer. You can see a white dielectric PERC layer is there just above the aluminum metallization. So this gives the incoming wavelength a second chance in case the wavelength has passed through emitter region and base region in the cell, and we have triangulated the section which is ahead of that. Because of these three changes, we have been able to achieve an efficiency increase of 0.3%. The stress on the wafer has gone down by 20%. Those who are in the industry know the importance of a good cell in the module, because lesser hotspot will be there, lesser stress will be there, a compact module you get. So these are the benefits of using the microcap technology or smart soldering technology. Bifacial, you know, bifacial modules you have seen a lot these days. So what is the small change that has been done in the bifacial thing? All we have done is that the rear side metallization has been replaced by local aluminum gate lines. So now the radiation which are reflected from the surface can enter from the backside also. And this helps to increase the efficiency of the module or overall generation. The second part, and one of the most important parts, why we have, which module size or which cell size should be chosen. 182, 166, which one? As I said earlier that since we are into the manufacturing of ingots and we are into the manufacturing of cells and modules, we have this unique opportunity to look at the whole industry chain from the innovation perspective. We checked the module for production feasibility and cost, for module reliability, system compatibility, module transportation, and manual installation. And we found that 182 mm is the best choice. We cannot go ahead than this. Now, why we have done that? will be seen in the next slide. We found that if we increase the size of the cell, which eventually increases the width of the module will increase, this will increase the stress on the module, right? If the module width is increased to 1303 mm, then deformation, the chances of deformation increases by 40%. The stress on the frame increases by 30 to 70%. So this is a serious problem. So that's why we have opted for the 182 mm wafer and have not gone beyond that. Another important parameter why we have chosen or why we have stopped at 182 mm wafer is that for using the bigger wafer, or if you go to 1300 mm width, then you will be needing the glass of that width, right? So if you need the glass of that width, then it will be difficult to find that glass. Also, the glass is difficult to get, and since that material is not new, then the maturity is not there. And since the maturity is not there, then we don't know what will be the life of the module, because this seriously impacts the life of the module. So the last point, although I've jumped time, what are the future technologies that we are looking at? We know that we have already achieved the maximum that we can draw out from P-type PERC technology. We have achieved 24.05% of P-type mono-PERC cell efficiency, and the module efficiency has already touched 22.38. We know that we cannot take more out of it, right? So we should search, instead of going on increasing the size of the module, we should look at other technologies, other available technologies. Other available technologies can be HJT, can be IBC, can be TOPCon, but we have to look that which technology is most easily to shift at. Considering this fact, we found that TOPCon is one technology which we can easily shift to. In TOPCon, all we need to do is that we need an additional layer of ultra-thin SiO2 and a doped polycon silicon layer is required. These small two changes can convert an N-type PERC layer module to a TOPCon module. These very too small, and if we have to go to other things like HJT and IBC, a lot of steps will be required. So it will be difficult for a module manufacturer to shift to more steps, but we can easily shift to the small steps. So that's the reason why TOPCon is one of the best technologies available in the market. LONGi holds the record of 25.21% efficiency in commercial size. Fraunhofer, this technology was introduced by Fraunhofer in 2013, and they hold the lab record of 25.8%. The benefits of TOPCon is that it has a better temperature coefficient. Its low irritance performance is much better. The LID virtually goes down to 0. So these are a lot of benefits which will further lower down the LCOE. Bifaciality of a TOPCon module is always higher than other module by 10%, and this gives a benefit of 1.7%. This further lowers down the LCOE. So if we have to talk about the value proposition of a TOPCon technology-based module, the energy yield increases by 3%. The installed capacity is increased by more than 3.5%. So this reduces the BOS and LCOE cost, and we get a highly reliable product. Now the most important message, please use mask and wash your hands. This is, I think, the most important part. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Pawan. It was a brilliant presentation. Thank you so much. May I please call upon Mr. Balwant Joshi, Founder and Managing Director, IDEM Infrastructure Advisory, for his topic, Blockchain Applications in the Power Sector. Mr. Joshi, please.
First of all, thank you very much for being here. This is the last session, 5:30 in the evening, and the area is, the discussions that is happening sometimes becomes abstract. But thank you very much. I also would like to thank RE Expo for inviting me over here for this particular presentation. We heard an excellent presentation from LONGi. Thank you, Pawan, for the superb presentation. And he talked about the various types of solar modules and how to improve the efficiency. We have a target to achieve 100,000 megawatt of solar. And out of 100,000 megawatt of solar, we also have a target of 40,000 megawatt of rooftop. Unfortunately, we have achieved only 6,000 megawatt. But can you think of, if we really achieve 40,000 megawatt of rooftop, what would happen? Not what would happen to you and me, but to the distribution companies who are going to manage. Lot of feeders would have a lot of renewable energy capacity. At the same time, along with the rooftops, we are also talking about the electric vehicles. And electric vehicles are bringing in additional load. More efficient, but in terms of electricity, load and unpredictable load. We don't know who would charge. But whether anyone knows what is the kind of load that it would bring in? What is the capacity of chargers? Currently, the capacity of chargers, the slow chargers is 14 kilowatt. Okay, a car charger which is a slow charger is 14 kilowatt. But what is the highest size of the charger for the electric vehicle that is available commercially in the market? It's a 3 megawatt. And when you have got such a load coming onto the distribution system, how would the distribution system cope up with it? You need different technologies to manage distribution system. You need different, can you really expect distribution company control center to really look at all the rooftop systems, all the chargers, all the new applications that are coming up into the system and deal with it? What kind of a distribution system that we need? And that's where the smart energy network solutions come in. There are multiple technologies that are being talked about, but I'm going to talk about a blockchain-based technology. Also, I'm very glad to inform you over here that we have signed, that is a IDAM Infrastructure Advisory, my company, we have signed a joint partnership agreement with Power Transition Limited, which is a UK-based company, and we have a stall from UK, High Commission over here. With their help, with their support, we have signed this particular partnership agreement to bring in this technology into India. So what this particular technology means, but before that, just one small slide on IDAM Infra. We are a services company operating out of India, multiple services that we provide, that is policy regulatory consulting, corporate advisory, renewable energy procurement, IT solutions for energy and utilities, distributed renewables, geospatial data management. So these are the services that we provide, just for your information, and we have tied up, we have entered into the partnership agreement with PT Volt, which is a UK-based company. So what is a blockchain-based technology? We know blockchain because of Bitcoin, we keep hearing about Bitcoins. But Bitcoin is just one of the applications of blockchain. So what is the underlying technology behind blockchain? It's a distributed ledger technology. Instead of having centralized control of everything, it's a decentralized control, decentralized management of the system. A perfect application of this would be the rooftop systems, which are spread across the geography of the distribution company or nation. So the blockchain technology would enable management of the large number of the distributed assets in a very efficient manner, in a very cost-effective manner. I wouldn't get into the technicalities of this particular technology, but I would certainly talk about what are the bigger applications of the blockchain technology before coming into the technology that we bringing in. As a PT Volt, as a IDAM Infra, what we are bringing into you. So what are those applications? First is peer-to-peer energy trading. There are two prosumers or rooftop system owners. There are some consumers around it. A prosumer or a rooftop generator wants to sell electricity to another consumer in the nearby area. And that's a peer-to-peer trading that is possible. It can be managed in a decentralized manner without distribution company getting involved into every small trade. There would be certain algorithms which would be embedded into the system. Using those algorithms, those trades will be executed automatically. Electric data management. What does this mean? You would have heard about, or in fact some of us have at home, the refrigerators or washing machines which can be switched on and switched off remotely. You have multiple applications, such applications, air conditioners, refrigerators, washing machines, which can be switched off, switched on remotely. And this could be really used very well by the distribution company to manage the load. But how to do it? Can distribution company look at every such appliance? No. So this blockchain based technology could come handy in doing this data management as well as incurring those transactions. Commodity trading. Electricity is one of the commodity, but it could be used for RE certificates also. So RE certificates associated with the renewable rooftop solar generation could be used for that. If there is any energy efficiency technology that is implemented, it can be done. Utility providers. So you know this would be very helpful to the utility. Utility could come in and implement it. Like you know, in some states, the distribution company is coming and implementing solar rooftops. Other applications which have been mentioned, I have picked this up entirely from IRENA report. So what are these other applications which we are talking about? Peer-to-peer trading we talked about. Crowd sale of renewable energy investment. You could do the crowdfunding, crowd selling of the renewable energy assets directly. Optimized distribution grid management, I explained some of those things, but other things you will find it out in this report. And authentication of the renewable energy certificate mechanism, which I mentioned also in earlier slide. So there are multiple applications, those are possible of this particular technology for the benefit of the renewable energy, for the large scale deployment of the renewable energy. Now coming to what we are offering over here. So what we are offering over here is one primary solution, and that is the digital energy platform. Okay. So if you see this slide talks about the kind of a transformation that is feasible because of this particular platform that has been created by Power Transition. It can be implemented anywhere in the world, but we are going to implement to begin with in India. So the first pilot. What are the benefits of this particular platform? Value that we bring in over here. So enabling dynamic optimization and balancing of the system. If you have an area connected to the distribution transformer or a feeder, if you want to do the balancing, can the distribution company do it? It's difficult, but if you can implement a digital energy platform, we can do it. Connecting buildings, EVs, all kinds of devices. In fact, I will present one of the pilots that we have done in UK. The data. So this is going to throw a lot of data about the consumer behavior, what are the requirements, where the focus needs to be there, if say in the form of energy efficiency or in the form of which areas to focus for the renewable energy deployment, solar rooftop deployment. An interesting feature is integration of the payment. So if you want to do the EV charging, you have got a solar rooftop. The tokenization would allow you to use those tokens to charge your EV somewhere else. Okay, so it's very interesting feature of this particular platform. Optimizing renewable energy generation, that is I think one of the most basic application that is available. Last but not the least, you would need a lot of compliances. For UN, we have given some commitments under Paris Agreement. How do you really manage those compliances? As far as the distributed renewable energy is concerned, energy efficiency is concerned, we can do using this particular our own system. Which are the major stakeholder? As one would expect, a distribution company is bound to be the major stakeholder. There would be a centralized agency or entity, something like we hope IDAM or PT Volt would be one of those entities who will be able to provide those services. Also, data service providers. government entities such as regulatory commissions and NICE or Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. And last, ICT service provider. You need telecommunication services. If you want to collect real-time data for appliances, you need those kind of a communication services. You need that kind of a metering system. Today, if you see the smart meters in India and smart meters outside India, there is a huge difference. Smart meters outside India also have got inbuilt capability of doing the home energy management system, which currently our systems don't have. High level of this particular system, the architecture, you can see 3-layer architecture as one would expect. So generation and demand connected to the either data logger or a cloud control system or cloud server if you see in the middle, and then the backbone is very reliable blockchain technology called Hedera Hashgraph. So the Hedera Hashgraph is one of the fundamental layer for this entire technology. And Hedera Hashgraph is somewhat similar to the, I won't say similar, but the same layer such as say Ethereum or a blockchain or any of these other blockchain technologies. So using this Hedera Hashgraph tokenization system, the solar tokens or the PT-Volt tokens would be generated, and those tokens could be used by for the purpose of trading, for the purpose of distribution system management. A simple model of the microgrid controller, we have got multiple applications, peer-to-peer trading, microgrid, and the microgrid application which you can see one side in the area that would be covered as a part of the microgrid, and all the systems within that microgrid, all the applications within that microgrid would be able to control using this particular technology. So it's not only collecting the data and managing the data, but also control. What is our approach to this particular implementation of PT-Volt technology or the DEP over here? If you see data producers as well as the data consumers, those would be connected to the Hedera Hashgraph. Using the Hedera Hashgraph, we would be generating the tokens, the one something which I mentioned earlier, and we will be implementing the system wherein we would be able to do the P2P trading as well as the microgrid controller. What are the 4 applications that we intend to bring it to the country? The first one, IMaaS, that is a microgrid, that is the integrated microgrid as a service application. One can imagine any microgrid application, all of us over here are about it. Data system architecture. So essentially, if the utility or an entity want just to do the analysis of the data and which is available to them or to be collected. So we will be bringing this entire data systems, advanced analytics, AI ML based analytics as a part of this particular suite of solutions over here. Third and fourth, it's a EV application. So if you see electric vehicle operating system, and here the payments are integrated. We are talking to the multiple payment service provider even right now and trying to integrate into the system. But the beauty of this would be the tokens could be integrated into the system. And finally, integrated energy data analytics system. There is a little bit of difference between what I talked about earlier and over here. This is meant for the entire distribution system, entire distribution area, the earlier which I talked about only for a particular application that or the particular area that we were talking about. I mentioned about the pilot. This is, I think, the second last slide of my presentation. The pilot that we have done, it's a small one, only 47 households, 0 carbon homes. It is a microgrid application. And if you see the successful hardware integration, optimization of the entire area in order to minimize the input energy into the system or into that particular area, demonstration of peer-to-peer lending, including demonstration of auctioning algorithms, demonstrated savings and the revenue streams for the community. Finally, I just wanted to show this slide to show what kind of equipment have been integrated in this particular solution. So you would see heat pumps, you would see air conditioners, refrigerators, solar rooftop systems. But the beauty of it is Also it integrates battery energy system. And because the battery energy system at the rooftop level or at the consumer level is integrated, and it can be used, UK market allows, incidentally UK market allows you to use the battery system at the consumer end to be used as a part of the ancillary services market, which it is still not allowed in India. US has started the process under Order 2222. So that's the beauty, that battery energy storage systems, multiple applications, solar rooftop systems, in order to minimize the flow of power from outside into the microgrid and then managing the microgrid over here. So that's all from my side from the presentation. If you have got any questions, I will be happy to respond it later. Thank you.
Our next presentation for the day is by Mr. Vivek Kumar, Key Account Manager, OTT Solar. The topic of his presentation is monitoring of soiling issues. Vivek, please.
Good evening, everyone. I am Vivek from OTT Hydromet. We are OEMs of Kippenzonen, so you can know as an Kippenzonen as well. So today we are talking about one of the most unexplored as well as interesting topic, which is our solar plants are experiencing. We call it soiling as well. So we will talk about it. Can you check, please?
Vivek, we'll change it for you. Just say change the slide.
Change the slide?
Change the slide.
Sure, that will be fine. Thank you. So next slide, please.
Just give me a moment, please.
Sure. So that's what happened when soiling happens, glitches in the performance.
True that.
Yeah.
Glitches.
Thank you. Next slide, please.
And the boys are still working on to it. Just
Oh,
give us a
no,
minute.
still process. Okay, no problem.
Meanwhile, you want to build a background around it?
Yeah. So might few of you know that as in Kippenzonen, we are Ott Hydromet. Under the Ott Hydromet, there are 3 brands, strong brands, a global presence, and a prestigious history as well. Luft is there, which supplies compact weather sensors, starting from your WS500, which measures all the 5 parameters in the solar industry: wind speed, direction, ATRH, pressure as well. In Kippenzonen basket, you come across our pyrometers, irradiation measurement. Apart from that, albedo meters, sun trackers, as well as soiling sensors too. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So let's start our journey. Generally, when we operate, our O&M people operate the plant, they have 2 values with them, either of one of them. Either it is a robot cleaning panel or plant or a manual cleaning plant. So they know the cost of them, but they should know the ROI also, how to clean it, when to clean it. For that, we have a commercial instrument which will help, an instrument which can help you to take the decision commercially when to clean or when not to clean. So it is a device which can give you free few ROIs. On those you can know where you start incurring losses on account of not cleaning the panels for not generating the energy. So these are the ROI points. The SLA line, what we are talking about, this line is drawn for the people who are into O&M business categorically, and they have some contractual foundations to clean plant at the certain level. So here is the economical ROI which we try to drive through certain data from one of the O&M player which we know. Apart from that, soiling, only soiling is not an issue. Kind of soiling is also an issue. When we did our pilot across all the sites globally, so we knew that we have to clean the panel or give the data to our O&M players. But when we saw the thickness of the soil was 1 mm approximately, but the transmission loss or the loss of light was almost different at all the sites. So that's the place where we realized that our Dust IQ or any instrument should be knowing about the kind of soil or create a local dust soil profile in it. So that's where we dread. This is certain how device look like. If few of you have seen it before. This one is measurement head. This is identical measurement head, but these are two different measurement heads. So they give you one independent, two independent readings, where you can install this device as in vertically, and this sensor will give you the outlook of the top panel side, and this will the bottom side, and then you can average out. Categorically, it's weighed around 4 kg, so very mobile. You can place it across to your arrays, between the arrays, and clean it along with when you are cleaning your module. This is the technology based on it. One measure head includes, it's nothing but an emitter receiver combination inside. What challenge we faced, like when all the conventional systems, what we see, they have an operational window of 12 hours because it operates on the sun when you clean one panel or not. But our customer wanted a device which can give them a data for 24 hours, so that once if they have any sandstorm, something of that sort around 2 a.m., 3 a.m., they can initiate their cleaning cycles around 5 a.m. by just deploying their robotic cleaning or by manual cleaning itself. So that's how it works. So, sorry, just my bad. So once the cleaning top surface is clean, the light, which is artificial sun created inside, light will pass through, nothing will fall back on a receiver, which is photodiode, so no error signal. Whereas in second case, there is certain soiling, a certain amount of light pass it through, and it will generate an error signal. And as per NREL, approximately up to 20%, your loss of transmission is directly proportional to your loss of energy generated by that panel. So that's what we are referring to. This is one of the sites in Saudi Arabia where top sensor has practical problem. We all know that due to gravitational inertia, our soil must trickle down towards from top to bottom. So that's what happening. Your sensor top, which is orange one, and bottom sensor, which is blue one. So you see a different kind of soiling patterns at there. Whereas sensor 2 has more, the bottom sensor has more soiling compared to the top one. This is undisclosed customer as well as site. We did a case study, so we wanted to share it with you also. So if you see this red, or brown one and the green one, these are the data coming from the sensor 1 and sensor 2. We plot it with day of cleaning and day of rain as well. So we try to create an inference where we can educate our customers, or our customer can have a self-explanatory data where they should know what to clean, when to clean. By this, in a month of 3-month cycle, they are able to reduce at least 2 cycles, which easily gave them ROI on the product itself, as well as saved them some cost on cleaning it too. So, I think I need your help again. If somebody can scroll it down, please, for me. Okay, so basically, if you see, if you remember the picture just now we shown, generally it was asked, we recommended to install it vertically, though people have installed it horizontally as well, but that's okay. But in that case, both of your sensors will be giving you an identical data when you place it on a PV module, either on the top side or the bottom side. But if you install this device vertically, your both of the sensors will get an independent kind of scenarios in the top side as well as the bottom side. So that's why we, thank you. So the references, what we generated from this is that the gradient of the slope changes with respect to their day of cleaning, or be it on the day of rain. So it changes drastically. The slope has been changed drastically in case of rain when it is compared to day of cleaning. So those were the references, as well as on the day of rain, sometimes they have initiated their cleaning cycles as well, because it was periodic for them. So we also requested them to save on that part, and automatically like they stopped it, and then they to get a better ROI of the product. So these were some field studies which I have shared. So in one of the case study, they also, in this case, if you see there was a slight increase in sudden decrease in their soiling because of the rain happened on that day, and there is a slight increase, 1.5% of increase in soiling, when there was not 15 days, there was no rain. So with these data points, though generally with experiential learning we know what is happening, but with the data points, it's going to become very evident to analyze it and to take corrected decisions on those. So these were some few recommendations we gave it to our customers, like their peak of slope can vary with respect to change in their seasonal traits. Though the sites, you cannot generalize this study because it's all depend upon specific sites. Some sites you don't need such devices because they are automatically rain pro, very clean, but some major of the sites it is very much required. Yes, let's go back to, I'll show you some side pictures as well. So this is one picture where people have installed it vertically, where both the sensors will give you then identical data, whereas the purpose, true usage of potential of this equipment cannot be utilized. But in case of this case, if you see vertically, the both data, this will give you the top scenario and this one will give you the bottom scenario, and then we can average it out. The most beautiful part of this product is this PV module. With the help of this module, we did do a local dust calibration process. With this, it can create a soil profile itself built inside the electronic part, and it help you to understand that what kind of impact on the generation of local soil conditions can do. For electrical people, this is some connection diagram. It's very easy to mount, execute device, kind of device. So RS485 output, these are pin configuration. You can also have this data on your laptops, etc. with Smart Explorer software, which is free of cost, available on KeepNZonen. You just need a 232 USB to 485 converter, and you can usually use it. And broadly, when we talk about this is OTT hydromet profile, this is OTT. It's a combination of hydro and met. Hydro is this, whereas Sutron is a data logger, global player USA, and it cut across the platform. In meteorology, I address categorically solar business. So Luft and KeepNZonen are the products which I take care of. I think this is it from my side. These are the contact details. I know few of you might have some questions. So we are available at booth number 5.117. So feel free to pitch in there. We'll have a Q&A there. And still, I guess we have 5 more minutes. If you have Q&A, then we can do it. Contact details are here for your reference. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vivek. In case our audience have any questions, they can just put it across to Vivek, or he's given the details of their booth, and you can visit the booth anytime during these 3 days.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Vivek, for the nice presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, last but not the least, we have the presentation by Mr. Sankalp Mehta, Vice President Strategy and Marketing from SUMIP. Sankalp, please.
So, good evening, everyone. The last slot, the last presentation of the day, or the final one for today. So I wanted to keep it very interesting rather than, thinking about it as being something very technical, because I'm not very technical as a person. We are going to talk on innovation. And I'm going to just share a very small story with you of what we did since last year. Because since last year, everything has been disrupted. Everybody is going through a very different business scenario. And we also decided to pivot and innovate because it became a necessity for a lot of businesses to do that. There was a very interesting figure where 90% of the startups that were there that had to change their existing business line to get into something new, right? So this is a very nice quote that I found, which says that innovation is taking things that exist and putting them together in a new way. A lot of businesses changed the way they were functioning, right? And similarly, I'm going to introduce to you what we were doing and also introduce to you innovations in fiberglass technology, which is one of the most promising technologies that we've seen, especially in the solar sector, where it has revolutionized the offerings that we have traditionally. So there are traditional materials like you might be knowing. There is metal, there's aluminum you've heard, there's iron you've heard. Today I'm going to introduce fiberglass to you. Fiberglass is very promising because it's a new technology. It's been in existence for a while, but now it's being adopted across India in a lot of sectors. With that, I'd like to introduce to you SUMIP Composites. A brief introduction about myself. I'm the Vice President of Sumeep Composites, looking into strategy and marketing. I happen to be an IIM Ahmedabad alumni as well. And the idea being that I could introduce to you what composites are today. Composites happen to be any two or more materials put together to make a superior material. So by the very nature and definition of composites, when we have two or more materials combined, we create a superior material. So you'll have some interesting properties when you create a material. When it comes to what we are doing in innovation, Sumeep is one of the leading companies when it comes to fiberglass products with the fiberglass technology, as well as the production capabilities which are unparalleled in this sector, happen to be one of India's highest, and for some products like cable tray, we have Asia's largest production facility. When it comes to our poles, street light poles in fiberglass, the idea about innovation revolves around us having 250 km per hour wind speed resistance that our engineers worked, innovated towards. We achieved this by, of course, simulation and material technologies where we've improved our fiberglass glass content in the poles. Enclosures are for all electronics in the world, but doing them in fiberglass, we've innovated and pivoted as well in the EV charging sector. I will be showing you a couple of glimpses of what we've been doing with our enclosures as well. Again, cable trays I mentioned, we are one of the most customized in cable trays. We have more than 1 lakh SKUs. We combined this customization, innovated thoroughly to give the customers a very, very nice offering which is fitting in their site directly. Ladders, they are ladders where we have put together ladders which can take 600 lbs of weight, right? And this is again something where two people can climb with equipment and the ladder still remains structurally very strong. Finally, last but not least, I'll talk about fiberglass conduits which replace PVC pipes with a much more durable alternative, which is much more powerful because of certain advantages that fiberglass brings to the table. There is a small AV which I would play right now just to showcase one of the facilities that we have. Just press play, please. Yeah. This is resin combined with electronic glass. That are the two main raw materials for fiberglass. The technology that you're seeing here is called hot compression molding, where this compound of resin and e-glass is combined and it is put in a 1,000-ton press. To finally give us the end result of a fiberglass enclosure. Computerized cutting machine which we give as an add-on to any application that the customers have, including EV. And this is a German robot which is used for gasketing, which gives the enclosures of IP67 rating. This is impact testing compared to a hammer test, and this is our in-house IP testing. it's a very important note to say that we are very focused on sustainable energy. So more than 50% of our facility currently today is powered by solar, right? Coming back to the pivoting and innovation, when our poles, fiberglass poles and enclosures division got together in a meeting, they pivoted towards what's new, what can we put together which is there from our existing lineup where we can bring expertise and build up a solution. That's when we came up with the idea of going into EV charging with our enclosure division and the expertise of the pole division to innovate to form a solution. What you're seeing, friends, is a kit which we assembled and put together for startups which want to make their own chargers. The idea being that we wanted to enable as many people who want to get into EV charging with their own electronics and give them the support of design as well as the advantages of fiberglass in their offering. These are some of the advantages which fiberglass technology brings to the table, right? This is quite different from a conventional material. So this will never get corroded. No rust, a lifespan of more than 20 plus years. We currently have installations for poles which have crossed 25 years, seen a cyclone and still stands, up to IP67, which is one of the highest in the industry. It can take extreme temperatures like 120 degrees Celsius and minus 40 degrees Celsius. IK10, which is the hammer test, in which this is a standard that we comply with, which is the highest standard. One very important benefit when it comes to fiberglass technology is that it is non-conductive in nature. So if the customer ever touches an EV charger or any other enclosure for application in fiberglass, he will never get an electric shock. The idea being that now we also have UL 94 flame retardant certifications where fiberglass technology enables the enclosures and all the other products to be flame retardant. That way, if there is any sparking, it will go off, and in case there is a fire, the product will fight the fire. It's halogen free, where we've removed harmful chemicals from our production process. It's UV resistant, which will not make it brittle in harsh environments. Theft proof. So how is this theft proof? Well, if somebody was to steal a steel enclosure or any other material, they would find a secondary market for it or secondary usage for it. In fiberglass, it's very challenging to find a secondary market where they could use this. So that makes the product a lot safer when it comes to traditional products which can find a secondary market. The chemical resistance comes in any harsh environment where the chemical involves. Fiberglass can withstand those chemicals, which gives it an advantage in those sectors. Again, it's up to 50% lighter than traditional materials, and it has insulating properties. Now, what does insulating property mean? Well, think of an EV charger, and if a customer was to touch a charger in a 50-degree temperature or 40-degree temperature, it would probably cause a burn. In fiberglass, because it's insulating, it does not allow the heat of the external environment to get inside. And similarly, if the charging components also heat up, the customer is much safer using such a solution. This is one of the designs that the team had done during their pivot in innovation for the fiberglass EV kits. The idea being, again, that constantly innovating for different applications to support different ideas is coming naturally to us now that we have decided to go in the sector where we are trying to find more and more customers with more and more use cases for fiberglass. So the technology of fiberglass has really caused a revolution in terms of the traditional materials that are being used, and this offers a superior alternative. This just covers a little bit of the EV kit that our team developed during this entire situation, where they can support startups and come up with a good solution. So now it's a plug and play kit which can basically replace any traditional material in EV charging. We also are presenting this material to you at 3.21 Hall 3. Please, I would request you all to visit if you want to get a feel of the material. If you have any other questions regarding fiberglass, I'll be happy to take them. And similarly, I would like to say that when it comes to thinking of innovation, thinking of pushing the boundaries of what we can do, always make sure that your team and your vision is aligned towards that so that you can take advantage of new opportunities and new sectors. Fiberglass technology, being one of the key technologies, has helped this sector in that way. Thank you so much.